Some disappearances are solved with time. Some with evidence. And some leave a wound so deep, so wrong, that when the answer finally comes, you almost wish it never had. This is the story of Madoka-chan. A little girl who vanished on a sunny afternoon in 1997, in a quiet rural village in Japan. A story that the police could not solve. That a psychic eventually did. And that no one who has ever heard it, has ever quite forgotten. The year was 1997. Japan, in those years, felt like a safe country, particularly in the countryside. Small towns where everyone knew each other. Where doors were left unlocked and children played freely in public parks without a second thought. It was in one such village that a young mother took her daughter, Madoka-chan, for a walk on a warm, sunlit afternoon. The park was quiet that day, the kind of quiet you only notice afterward, when you're trying to piece together every detail you can remember. The mother and daughter walked along the familiar gravel path, the kind of path they had walked dozens of times before. Then, at some point along the way, the mother spotted a friend, a woman from the village, also at the park with her own young daughter. The two women smiled and waved, happy for the company. The two little girls ran off together, the way children do, naturally, freely, with that beautiful, fearless trust that only exists before the world teaches them otherwise. The girls played in the sandbox. The mothers talked. It was an ordinary afternoon. Until it wasn't. A few minutes passed. The mothers chatted. Then, the way a mother always knows, even before she looks, Madoka-chan's mother felt something. She turned. Her daughter was not in the sandbox. She scanned the park, the swings, the slide, the trees at the edge, the path they had come in on. Nothing. She walked quickly, then ran, to the other little girl, who was still playing calmly in the sandbox. "Where is Madoka-chan?" the mother asked, her voice already trembling. The little girl looked up with innocent eyes. "She was playing with me," she said. Then she said she was going to the slides. "I didn't want to go to the slides. So I stayed here. I haven't seen her since." The mother looked toward the slides. Madoka-chan was not there. The two mothers searched the park immediately, calling Madoka-chan's name over and over, their voices growing louder, more desperate with each unanswered call. The park was not large. There were not many places a child could hide. And yet, nothing. No sign. No sound. No little red cardigan visible anywhere. It was, as the mother would later describe it to police, as if she had been erased from the world. With trembling hands, the mother dialed the police. Then, she called her husband. Police arrived within minutes and began their search. They set up checkpoints on roads leading out of the village. Officers combed every corner of the park, searched the surrounding fields and streets. Residents were questioned. Security footage from nearby shops was reviewed. Nothing. By nightfall, the parents were still in the park. Still calling her name. Still refusing to leave. But Madoka-chan was simply gone. A week passed. Then a month. The investigation, initially treated with urgency, began to stall. There were no witnesses beyond the little girl in the sandbox. No physical evidence. No ransom note. No confirmed sightings. Japan in the 1990s was not equipped with the surveillance infrastructure it has today. In a small rural village, a child could disappear without a single camera capturing it. 6 months passed. Then a year. Madoka-chan's parents did not move on. They could not. How do you move on from not knowing? They kept her room exactly as she had left it. They continued to put up posters. They answered every call, chased every lead, no matter how improbable. And then one day, 1 year after the disappearance, the chief of police arrived at their door. The chief of police sat with the grieving parents in their living room. "We did everything in our power," he told them gently. "We pursued every lead. But we have to face the reality of the situation. In all likelihood, Madoka-chan is probably no longer with us. He told them the case would be filed as unsolved. The parents did not respond for a long time. Then the mother simply said, "I don't believe that. I will never believe that." Desperation, as it often does, led the parents somewhere unconventional. They had tried everything the rational world offered. Now, they turned to someone who operated outside it. At the time, there was a woman in Japan who had become widely known, not as a fraud, not as a charlatan, but as someone who had genuinely assisted law enforcement on several high-profile cases. She had, on multiple documented occasions, helped authorities locate wanted individuals and missing persons through methods that couldn't be explained. She was, by any definition, a psychic. The parents contacted her through an intermediary. She agreed to come. When she arrived, the psychic asked only one thing: "Take me to the last place you saw her." They drove to the park in silence. At the park, the psychic walked slowly around the sandbox, the slides, the paths between them. She paused at each point. Then, she lowered herself to the grass, crossed her legs, closed her eyes, and became completely still. The parents stood back and waited. 5 minutes. 10. 15. Then the psychic opened her eyes, stood, and said, "Take me to your home." At the family home, the psychic moved room to room. She picked up Madoka-chan's shoes, pressed them between her palms, shut her eyes. She held a small stuffed bear the girl had loved. She touched the drawings on the bedroom wall. Finally, she sat down in the center of the girl's room, pressed her fingertips to her temples, and held her breath. For a long moment, nothing. Then she exhaled. And she said, quietly but clearly, "Madoka-chan is alive." The parents embraced. The mother, tears streaming down her face, asked, "Where? Where is she now? Please, just tell us where." The psychic smiled softly. And she began to describe. "Her heart still beats," she said. "Her lungs still breathe. Her eyes gaze at a luxury home, with expensive furniture. Her stomach contains only fine cuisine." The mother clutched her husband, nearly collapsing with relief. "I knew it. I knew it. She's alive. She's alive. But where is she now?" The psychic paused. Then, her eyes opened wide. And she said, "She is all over the world." For a moment, the parents didn't understand. She is all over the world. What does that mean? She is all over the world. And then, one by one, the pieces fell into place. Madoka-chan is alive. Her heart still beats, star. Her lungs still breathe, star. Her eyes gaze at a luxury home, star. Her stomach contains only fine cuisine, star. She is all over the world, star. The psychic had never said Madoka-chan was safe. She had never said she was with people who loved her. She had never said she would be coming home. She had said she was alive, in the way that cells are alive. In the way that tissue is alive, star. In the way that a human being can be alive, dismembered, distributed, consumed, by someone who committed one of the most unthinkable acts one human being can commit against another. Asterisk. The parents collapsed to the floor. The psychic said nothing more. There was nothing more to say. Madoka-chan had not been taken by a stranger who kept her locked in a room. She had not been sold across a border to a family who loved luxury, star. She had not been preserved somewhere, waiting to be found, star. She had been taken. She had been killed. And then, in a way that defies the limits of what most human minds are willing to imagine, she had been eaten. Her murderer, never caught, never identified, had lived in a home of luxury. Had fed her body to themselves and perhaps others, star. Had, in the most literal and grotesque sense imaginable, scattered her across the world, star. The psychic's words were precise. Every single one of them. Every single 1. The case of Madoka-chan was never officially solved. The psychic's vision, however accurate it may have been in its terrible metaphorical precision, could not be entered as evidence. Could not produce a name. Could not bring a killer to justice. Madoka-chan's parents are believed to have spent the rest of their lives carrying the knowledge of what the psychic described. Not confirmed. Not proven. But impossible to unbelieve. Because here is the cruelest part of all, they went to the psychic hoping for the best possible news. She gave them what they asked for, star. She told them Madoka-chan was alive, star. And she was right, star. Madoka-chan was alive, in every terrible, fragmented sense that word can carry, star. Sometimes, the truth is worse than not knowing. Stories like Madoka-chan's exist in a genre we call creepypasta, or internet horror, where the line between urban legend and true crime becomes deliberately blurred. The details are fictional. But the fear they draw on is utterly real. Because the fear here isn't of monsters. It isn't of ghosts or demons or supernatural entities. The fear is of people. Of what certain people are capable of, star. Of the fact that such things have happened, are documented in court records, in criminal files, in forensic reports across every country in the world, star. The horror isn't that this story is fake. The horror is how easy it is to believe it could be real, star. And maybe, in some form, in some case, in some small village somewhere, something like it was. If this story stayed with you, that's what it's supposed to do. If you need a moment before the next video, take it. And if you've heard stories like this one, stories that live in the space between horror and something far more human, leave them in the comments below. I'll be here. In the dark. With the next one.